morning. The Cochrane House Hotel was where I grew up. The Cochrane House Hotel was just outside of Glasgow, and it was in the middle of about 5 council housing schemes, which was basically a lot of the people that came from Glasgow when Glasgow was getting redeveloped all went out to the suburbs. So the Cochrane House Hotel was an oasis in amongst all these rival housing schemes that, to be honest with you needed a passport to go through some of these places if you didn't belong. I first went there for a drink when I was about 17. My mate and I used to go to the bar to play snooker and play pool. It was the only place around we could do this. So when you walk into the bar nonchalant, and what you do is you walk in there and you walk straight to the bar and say, "Can I have a pint of heavy please and 1 cigar?" Because if you're underage, you wouldn't ask for cigars. So we thought this was a good idea. So we used to walk in, 2 pints of heavy, 2 cigars. And at that time, £1 would get you 3 pints and 1 cigar.
It's not really clear.
So when we were 18, we decided to go upstairs to the more formal part of the bar. And as you walk into the hotel through the main entrance, immediately to your left is where the stairs were to go downstairs to the nightclub. Right opposite was the lounge bar, to the right was the cloakroom, and to the right of the lounge bar was another function room which was more for weddings and any other kind of events that used to take place. In fact, one of the events that used to take place in this other wee place was Grab a Granny. A Grab a Granny evening, and if you don't know what that is, ladies, that means it's over 25. Because when you're 18 years old, 25 is really old. So the Cochrane House Hotel was a great place to meet new friends.
Is it all right?
It was also a great place to meet new enemies, which was a scary thought too, because remember, this is an oasis in amongst all these housing schemes, so all these other people were coming into the place. People you would never meet in a pink fit, but they were there. And of course, you mix that with alcohol. It can get a bit volatile at times. So because of this, you had to get some skills. You had to learn some new skills. When you first walk into a bar, most people in Scotland, I would say, because Scotland's a very tribal place, so you can't really just go to the next suburb and walk into a bar. It's not the done, well, it wasn't the done thing back then. So when you walk into the bar, you sort of have to quickly suss the place out, see if there's any threats, and then you find a place where it's your back's against the wall, so you can see the front door, and you've got an exit strategy. And this is something that stands you in good stead when you travel throughout the world. When you go to strange places, you do the same thing. You make sure there's nothing behind you. You can see the front door, you can watch the people coming in. You learn about body language. Most of the people that walk in the door are just coming in to go for a drink. But then again, you'll get the odd person who'll want to walk in and maybe cause a bit of trouble, maybe cause a bit of noise. And these are the people you've got to be aware of. This also is a skill that you can't just pick up and read from a book. This is something you can experience from many, many years of drinking in a place like the Cochrane House Hotel. Because the body language is different when it's sober. And after you've had 10 pints of beer, the body language completely changes. And it's a wee bit more subtle sometimes when it gets to that point in life. There was many fights. Many fights took place. Quite often there'd be police cars or there'd be ambulances to take people home. I was never very good in the fighting part. So for me, diplomacy was the better option. So you had to learn how to communicate with anybody and everybody. From the wee thugs that thought they were 6'2" to the thugs that were 6'2". You had to sort of find some kind of common ground and some way of communicating without patronising, so that you can get out the front door in one piece and not end up going home in an ambulance or a police car. Spatial awareness is something you also have to learn about, even here. Coming here this morning, you have to be aware that the corridors are people through here. You want to know where people could come from if you had to. Spatial awareness is something you learn at a very early age, and this stands you in good stead all through your life. When you can walk into a place and you can suss out the potential dangers or the potential threats for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not many people are spatial aware these days. Really frustrating when you walk through the supermarket and some clown sat there in the middle of the aisle with a trolley, completely oblivious to the world that's round about them. No spatial awareness, people. You've got to learn. Good thing about the Cochrane House Hotel was the music. Two of my friends were DJs, so for a lot of the time, I didn't have to pay to go into the nightclubs. I used to just, I'm with Charlie, thanks very much. And I'd walk in the door and I'd go up to the decks, and I'd stand at the decks and just watch like this, watch over the nightclub, watch all the dancing, just watch everything take place. Knew what records were coming on, you get to know all the different kind of music. It was a great place to be, you could drink up here without getting hassled. If you were on your own, it was good, because if you're on your own, you go to the bar, you look right sad, don't you? I mean, if you walk into a place that's packed and you're on your own, you're a sad wee person. But you can go to the decks and you're safe. It's a great place to go. And the good thing about back then, in the late 70s, the early 80s, progressive rock, you know, your Pink Floyds and all this kind of thing, was giving way to punk. 1976, the Sex Pistols come out. You had New Romantics. You had different genres of music. It was one of the best times to be alive within the music scene. Between 1976 and about 1984, music was absolutely fantastic. When you go to a nightclub, of course, there's also lots of drinking. I practiced my drinking a lot at the Cochrane House Hotel. When I first went there, I could only drink 1 or 2 pints. By the time I left, I was in double figures. I could easily go down there. Friday night was a wee snack. Friday night was maybe 5 pints with your friends. Saturday was the night you went out and you actually had to have a good night, so quite often you were in double figures. And I've often thought to myself, that's over a gallon of beer. I just don't know how I could physically consume that amount of alcohol or any liquid these days. Hangovers were plenty. I have lost count of the times. I'm surprised I got home some nights. I was complete autopilot to get me back to the house. So you've got music, you've got a nightclub. The only thing missing is women. There were stacks of women went to this place too. This was fantastic. It was just brilliant because you couldn't go to these other places, housing schemes, because you could get into trouble, but they all came to this nightclub. So you meet new people, you have new relationships. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, you could go out with somebody for 2 weeks and then see ya, and then you'd go with somebody else for 2 weeks, and that's just the way life was. It was just a kind of free love. Not quite like the 60s, but you know, it was a kind of similar experience we had. Back then, we didn't really have a big drug problem in the Cochrane House Hotel. There was a few people who used to sell drugs, mostly hashish. We couldn't sell marijuana because it's too cold, not unless you had a greenhouse and you snuck your marijuana plant in beside the tomato plants, because they look similar. So any greenhouse in the UK will have tomato plants and a cannabis plant, but I didn't do that. Another good thing with the Cochrane House Hotel is you met people from all walks of life, people you would never bump into. You met the crooks. You met the people of the black market. You could buy things. You didn't have to pay full price. It didn't matter. You could get absolutely anything you wanted if you knew the right people. There was a car plant down the road. People could almost steal a whole car from the car plant. All you did was put your order in on the Friday or Saturday night, and your car parts would arrive the following week. It could be a complete door, a bonnet, anything. Video recorders, you name it. Absolutely everything was available at the Cochrane House Hotel. It's a fantastic place. The sad thing is the Cochrane House Hotel no longer exists. It's just a bit of barren land. And people today would never know of the memories of this place and how it affected the lives of so many people in the neighbourhood and how it prepared them for the wider world. And I think I had a fantastic time. There's so many memories of the Cochrane House that I often share when I go back home. So the final event I ever had at the Cochrane House was on the 10th of June 1988, which was a week before I left Scotland to come here. And I hired the nightclub downstairs, and the place was just absolutely packed. Charlie was doing the decks. I was sober. I didn't want to drink that night. And when the lights went up at the end of the night, it was really nice to not have a fight. Because quite often at the end of the nightclub, there was always a fight. And you go outside and you had to go through the ambulances and the police cars. But this night, none of that was there. It was really cool. So I had my going away party, which was called Campbell's Final Fling. And that was the last time I was there. And I miss it. I miss that time of my life. I think it was an absolutely fantastic time. Now, I'm teetotal almost, which is really sad, isn't it? Isn't it really sad? But I think I've consumed most of my alcohol in my early life, and I don't have to do it anymore.
That's right.